Ladies and gentlemen of the internet, welcome. I hope you're all fantastic. So we've just had our first preseason game of the upcoming 2022-2023 season with our game against DC United, which Bayern won 2-6. Today I'm joined by, well, he's changed his name, but it's the same person as you all know, as you all love. It is the Nagels Enjoyer. So Nagels Enjoyer, how you doing? How are you finding today? Are you having a good day?
Yeah, have a good day. At least it's not that hot like yesterday, and a better day today. And after that game, you got some reason to be happy.
Great.
Definitely.
So
Let's
obviously the
go.
game happened yesterday, but for obvious reasons, because the game was on at past midnight. Uh, I had no interest in talking about it yesterday. So we're here today to talk about the game yesterday, the 2-6 victory. And really, you can say it was a game of two halves. Obviously, with it being a preseason friendly, there was a lot of rotation between the first half and the second half. So we'll talk about that, and we'll talk about individual players as well. But first of all, just what were your general thoughts on the game as a whole before we obviously take a more analytical approach of how we did yesterday? What are your general feelings on it?
So my general feelings were quite positive, like at least for most of the time. I like um, I like the way we played. I think this is I somehow have a feeling this is what Nagelsmann always wanted us to play like this, but he couldn't with Lewandowski. I think that's like the biggest change.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I mean, there were some kind of weird scenes where I didn't you say like the bottom team in the MLS, this United, if I remember correctly, they're like the worst team there,
One of the
and
worst.
we still conceded 2 goals.
True.
The way we conceded this was like weird, to put it in that way,
Mm-hmm.
but otherwise I I like it. I think our first half was way better than the second half. Like
Okay.
we played it. I get. I thought that. I also like Mane and Nabri. We need a new combo name for them because they are looking sharp. This combination, bro. And Davis. I don't want to go into details of every player, but this game, let's go, bro. Let's go. It's a good teaser. I was at the game in DC and the atmosphere was amazing. Yeah, right. The atmosphere was really good.
Yeah, it was telling that like even Thomas Muller in an interview after the game was saying that there had been like some sort of fireworks after every game. He wished that like that was a thing in the Bundesliga as well, which just shows you that hey, very much enjoying it.
Yeah.
Tell us of how you're doing as well. Hope you're having a fantastic day yourself. Jonathan, patron as well. I hope you're
Thank
doing
you,
good as
Captain.
well.
But
Yeah, but just to like kind of talk about what you said, I very much agree with a lot of the points that you made about the quality, and just in general the vibe of the game yesterday. I really enjoyed it. I must say, I really enjoyed the game. Obviously, the first half more, but the second half gave me a lot of things to chew on. Probably more than the first half. And one thing I don't agree with you on is giving Mane and Gnabry a nickname, because we have seen in the past how absolutely terrible that goes. We started the whole Sanabri or whatever people wanted to call him, and that
but
lasted
robbery was
one.
fine though.
That lasted one game against Schalke, and then we never saw Sanabri ever again do anything meaningful. So I don't want us to nickname anyone. I just want us to keep our feet on the ground and see how things pan out. But overall, very happy with yesterday's game. It is a friendly, of course, so there are certain things that you need to take into consideration. But I think considering that DC United were in the middle of this season, whereas we were in preseason, I think they should have been much sharper, and we would have been a lot less sharper in yesterday's game. But it felt like the complete opposite, where we were just on it right from the word go, and they just couldn't keep up, which is very strange, I find. But then again, there is also a certain gulf in quality and class, so that is also something that needs to be taken into consideration. But yeah, first preseason game I'm very happy about. Now I wanted to start off by talking about the newcomers. And well, the four newcomers that we had,
Yeah,
the four debutants. And I think just going to go based on when they played. So in the first half, we had Mane join, have his debut, and we had Mazraoui have his debut. So I want to start with, actually, who do you want to start with? Who do you want to start talking about first?
I think I have a different opinion on Mazraoui than like the others, but we could just start on Mane
Mm-hmm.
because he's like say he's the bigger signing, but yeah, because Mane, I people were writing on Twitter that it felt like he was playing for this team all the time, like you know what I mean? Like there was no, didn't feel like it was his first game, and I kind of agree with that. I thought he was looking very sharp. The way we played with him, he was like distributing passes and also the link up with Davis. Everything. I thought it was a good half by him, and I'm looking forward to more. Honestly, I thought it was great. The pressing he delivered, everything. Thought it was. It's a valuable transfer for us, and you can already see why. I love. I think it's a great deal by Brazzo once again. Must have had my phone in my hand to watch the comments. But yeah,
But
that's what.
yeah, I mean, I very much agree with you. I was watching that game yesterday, and the thing that stood out to me was how much we played on the left side of our field.
Yeah,
You know, Taos have mentioned here a 4-2-2-2 felt very dynamic, amazing performance. Sane looked very sharp, and you know what? It's good. I'm very happy that Sane looked very sharp
yeah, me
because
too, me
I
too.
was thinking, and I was gonna make a video about this actually, but I ended up not doing it because after our discussion on, was it Sunday? I think no, not Sunday. It was like 2 days ago when the leak news was announced. So our discussion from Tuesday, I was thinking about it. I was just like, were we being extremely harsh on Sane? And that's why I was yesterday. I was like planning on making a Sane video, just to be like, yeah, because we were all saying that Sane, he really doesn't have a spot in the team, and granted, none of our other wingers have a really asserted themselves last season and should have had a spot in the team, but because we had no one else, they did. So the way I'm looking at this upcoming season, and this game actually was perfect for that, is what I want to see from him is just one thing, and one thing alone, and that is just more hunger. And I think he's someone that I acknowledges the criticism as well. He isn't playing to the level that he should be playing as. But I still do think, like, I still liked what I saw yesterday from Sane, and I just wanted to quickly mention that. But in terms of Mane, wow, the
Well, right,
Mane
yeah,
the Mane Gnabry, I think the penalty was very poor, if I'm being honest. I think any decent keeper would have saved that, but you can say that about most penalties, to be fair. But Mane and Gnabry were just wow. I wasn't 100% sure on whether they're gonna like excel that quickly. I thought it might take like half a season, and it still might take half a season. As that Polish guy says, it's the first preseason game, so it's difficult to take too much away from it. But there are a lot of positives that we saw. And you know what? I was just extremely happy with what we got yesterday, personally, because I thought we were just extremely fluid. And that's exactly what I expected to see without, a recognized striker. You had, especially our left side, look extremely dangerous. Gnabry, Mane, Sane, and then you also had Davis. I thought those four right there just looked extremely good. And it felt like, unfortunately, I can't say that. I couldn't say the same about our right side in the first half, but our left
yeah,
side was just electric, absolutely electric. And we'll talk about other players such as Sabitzer obviously later, but we're just gonna start with the debutants for now. Um, but yeah, the link up between Mane and Gnabry was so good. And Davis, I can't remember who it was on Twitter. I'll actually scroll just to find. It was Revington_17 who basically was just praising Davis a day in, day out. He was just praising him for minutes on minutes on minutes on end. He was like, "Yo, how is Davis this good already? Davis needs to be drug tested because there's no way he is this good in
Yeah,
a
I saw you
preseason
with
game,
it. Yeah.
this energetic." But you could tell Davis wanted it. He's playing in America. He wants to show the people, you know what? Yeah, this is where I learned my football, and I'm gonna give it back to the people. It's really that simple, and it's just so good. It's just so good. Like last season, he obviously struggled a little bit with his heart complications, so on and so forth. But like this is what I wanted to see. Like this is what I just wanted to see from him, and the team in the first half. Mane Gnabry link up with Davis. I think like obviously a lot of people are talking about the Mane and Gnabry link up, but I thought the Davis and Mane link up was just as good.
Yeah, it was just as good. I think with there's not even like you know what the problem is actually. We're talking about the 4-2-2 being really good. The Sane, Mane, Davis, Gnabry, all of this linker was crazy, right?
Mm-hmm.
We have so much depth, and then there's other people like Coman, Müller, right? Where do they play?
Yep.
If Sane plays like this, let's say this is like his, not to say average, but like what we could expect from him the next season, right?
Yep.
Or this season, then I can't see who would drop for him. Like, you know what I mean? Like I feel like Müller must play like really shit to be dropped out of the starting 11. Coleman, I know Nagelsmann still praising him being like one of the most important players in the squad, right?
Mm-hmm.
With that, I think this is where we might want to talk about the next debutant, which is like Mazraoui. And I think, as much as you said, Prince, last time, you think it's one of the best signings, like the best signing for us this transfer window, because we solved the right back position once and all. He had a good performance. Don't get me wrong. You could see like he was trying to. And he had some good runs along the wing. But yeah, as you said, the left side looked way sharper than the right side, and Mazraoui was one of the reasons why. I'm not like criticizing him as being like shit or something, but that's what I've been saying. Like Mazraoui was good, but I think he has like much higher ceiling. He could play way better.
Yep.
And this is like where I think if we play a 3 at the back, this is where Coleman would play at Mazraoui's position as a wing back, kind of hybrid wing back winger stuff, and or maybe even as a right wing who's like just pushing aggressively. I don't know, must see, but Mazraoui, I think he was the weakest debutant, to say, without like discrediting him as much.
Oh no, I definitely
know,
agree with you. Yeah, I definitely agree with you. He was definitely our weakest debutant. Now, my issue is I don't know how much we actually helped him yesterday. Just because he had to play with relatively young players in.
Yeah, you're right. Though, yeah.
So like I actually don't know like how much we how much we helped him yesterday, but I did think like some of his touches were a little off. I did think like his ball carrying was very good, but I thought like his passing was extremely poor. Like one instance as well, where like he could have just, or where he was in a lot of empty space and he could have crossed it in, and his cross just goes horribly wrong. I think he was trying to cross it to Mane, but it just went horribly wrong. So like definitely out of the 4 debutants yesterday, by far I think the weakest. But I don't think I'll be more interested to see how he performs against Manchester City, if I'm being completely honest, just because I feel like he'll actually play with more established players. So like if in Kimmich in midfield, for example, maybe Coman or Sane on the right, or Gnabry more on the right. We are flexible, so there are multiple ways that we could play, but I just think maybe he needs a few more of the more experienced players, and then I think it'll be a good way to judge him. But for his debut, it wasn't like a bad debut, but it wasn't
got overshadowed by the others because they were so good.
Exactly. And yeah, I think like I don't know whether I don't know whether he was the worst debutant.
I know where you're going. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, just talking about the second half and the other two debutants in Gravenberg and De Ligt. I don't know whether Mazraoui was the worst. I think it's a good battle between him and De Ligt actually for the worst debutant yesterday. Obviously, not saying that either of them are bad players, but just in terms of yesterday's performance, I think you could make an argument for either one of them. But yeah, talking about the second half in Gravenberg and De Ligt. I'll go with Gravenberg very quickly, just cause. Well, how do I phrase this? When like last time when we had a discussion, and I think the question came up like, who am I most excited to see in the upcoming season? And a lot of people said De Ligt, Mane, Mazraoui, and I said Gravenberg. Feels good. Feels good.
I mean, with Sabitzer's performance yesterday, right?
We'll talk
there's still a battle.
We'll talk about Sabitzer. Don't worry.
What I wanted to say was, if Sabitzer wasn't playing that good yesterday in the first half, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think there would be no discussion that Gravenberg will start alongside Kimmich the first match against Frankfurt, because this guy, we made a steal. Crazy how good he is already. I just love the way. I think you could see everything this guy offers in like Muller's last goal. The way he dribbled past these DC players and still delivered like this perfect pass from Müller. He could take the ball and just run through and score the goal. And it was honestly, Gravenberg, man. What a baller, man. What a baller. I love him.
Yeah, honestly. Daniel, welcome to the discussion. We're just currently talking about Gravenberg's performance yesterday. We're currently going through the debutants yesterday. But first of all, how are you doing? How are you doing? Good?
Yeah, I'm doing good, thank you. How about you all?
Yeah, I'm doing good as well. Mm-hmm. I guess I'll ask the question to you then. Like, what was your thoughts yesterday on Gravenberg's performance? And I guess since we've already talked about those two, Mane's as well as Mazraoui's performance yesterday.
Yeah, I think with Mane, he was the player who impressed me the most out of everyone on the pitch, just because of the pressure he applies. Because it's way different from a Lewandowski who just poaches in the box. The way he presses, his link up already with the squad, which was really impressive to see because he hasn't been with us that long. The way he links up with Gnabry and the other players, his pressing game, it's very nice to see. With Gravenberg, I think he has a lot of potential and he's already showing it. The assist for Muller was really, really good. It reminded me of the Kimmich pass to Sane a few years ago, and it reminded me of the Robin goal from the 2014 World Cup where he was running through the Spain defense. So I think Gravenberg shows a lot of potential. He's a good positional sense, good passing. Mazraoui, he looked good. It wasn't amazing, I guess. It was a good performance, but it wasn't spectacular.
We pretty much agreed on it. Everything, right?
Yeah, I mean, we basically said the same thing. Gravenberg, personally, for me, is the most interesting one out of all of them. Yeah, and I very much I think the very same thing about you, which is that the Gravenberg assist for Thomas Müller, the goal that I immediately thought of straight away was obviously Kimmich's assist to Sane against Schalke during Sane's first game for Bayern. I immediately thought about that. I think it was a 7-0 because the 8-0 I believe was scored by Musiala. So I think it was a 7-0 against Schalke in the 2020-2021 season. And that's what immediately came to mind for me. Now, what I really liked as well was that, that little layup in the second half where Müller tried to give an assist for Gravenberg.
I remember.
Yeah.
And Gravenberg misses it, and you just see him just be extremely frustrated. And it was very unlike him because the whole game he was just extremely calm, which I think was the biggest takeaway for me because I thought he'd be a lot more nervous. But he was extremely calm all game. And when he missed that shot, that easy, it wasn't an easy shot, but when he missed that shot completely, you just saw him extremely frustrated. And the thing that I really liked, again, from Thomas Müller, actually, was that Müller, like, he at first he was like, oh, okay, it's whatever. And then when he saw how frustrated Gravenberg was, he actually, like, goes over to him and was like, yeah, come on, no worries about that. We'll get another chance on and so forth. Which just little things like that, I very much like, something that can be easily missed. But I think it just shows you, one, Müller's experience, but also, two, it shows you how much, I guess, how much expectations there were. Maybe not expectations. Maybe expectations is the wrong word, but how much pressure, I guess, there is on these young players, that, just joined us to perform. That, like, a shot in a preseason friendly that, let's be realistic, nobody really cares. Like, nobody cares about the outcome. We're just trying to find, we're trying to watch a good game, basically. That's all it is. But to see him, like, be absolutely distraught and then Müller just rush over and be like, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. You're going to get more chances. And I think it's also very telling how many people talked about, Kimmich especially, how often he talked about Gravenberg, how good Gravenberg was in training. You've got Neuer, who mentioned it a few times. Because a lot of people obviously expected the likes of Mane to come in and do well. A lot of people expect, De Ligt to come in and do well. A lot of people think that Mazraoui will be, a key player for us because, again, we don't really have a right back. Oh, well, okay, we do have right backs, but we don't really have a right back. And Gravenberg, I think by many people, it's almost seen as just like the luxury transfer, which I think is a little bit unkind to him. But I think I can definitely see why that is the case. Now, with that said, De Ligt. Let's talk about De Ligt. Who wants to go first? Because it's not me.
Yeah, with the way he played, it's a perfect fit for Bayern because he scored a good goal. He got a yellow card, and then we thought he got an injury. So it kind of just sums up the perfect Bayern player. But I think it's a bit harsh to criticize him based on the performance, just because of the fact he's only trained with us for like maybe a couple hours, and he's been flying from Europe to the US, and he's been doing medicals. So I don't want to judge him too hard. I thought it was a good goal. There were aspects of the game I did like he seemed very good at the tackle. There was one really good tackle he made after a foul that got called back. So I don't want to judge him too hard. There were aspects I liked, and I think we'll just have to wait a bit longer to see him fully come out as a player.
Yeah, I fully agree on Daniel. Actually, I think we also have to talk about. I think it was the first goal we conceded. I think it was a kind of a miscommunication between Ulreich and De Ligt. I don't even know what he was doing there. I think Prince said it on Twitter. He was like, the player was offside, but De Ligt decided to catch him onside, and that was really weird. I think it might be like because he doesn't know it any better because he's not in the team that much that long. But I still think he will start. Honestly, I think he will start. I think because this is the interesting fair, right? If we're playing the 4-2-2-2, there will only be two center backs, right? Mm-hmm. And who will these two be? I think Lucas is the one who is like Lucas also, for me, is undisputed. And then there's like it's either De Ligt, Upa, or Nianzou or Pavard. Which with Pavard, I honestly think more and more he will leave. Now, there's no way Darwin Núñez just scored 2 goals against Leipzig. Sorry, I had to say that. Okay. But yeah, that's what I've been thinking because 4-2-2 means only 2 defenders, like 2 central backs. Who will they be? What is it? Like? I think we can talk about it later, but it's just I think it came to my mind.
Okay, yeah. Before I say anything about the Ligt, I just want to show one thing very quickly. This right here.
Yeah.
This right here.
That's bad.
That's all I'm gonna show. Right? That positioning is. You see, you can tell the rest. They're trying to keep a line, and I'm gonna try showing this. Hopefully, it doesn't get taken down. But I'm gonna try and show this just a few seconds, and you can tell, right? Like everyone else is trying to get onside. Trying to keep a line. They're keeping a line relatively well.
Yeah, what is he doing, bro? This is like some amateur shit. You don't do that.
And that's my issue, right? Because a lot of people like De Ligt. I don't have an issue with him. Like I'm not, as you all know, right? I don't. I don't necessarily look at these players and I'm like, oh, they're goats and so on and so forth. I don't really care, right? But a lot of people obviously are a huge fan of De Ligt. And the way I'm looking at this is very simple. I think if this was Sule, a lot of people would be criticizing him. If this was Upamecano, a lot of people would be criticizing him. If this was Lucas Hernandez, a lot of people would be criticizing him. Now, of course, the argument is that he's jet lagged, so on and so forth. But that isn't a jet lag issue. That isn't a jet lag issue. Now, I'm not criticizing him massively, but I think because a lot of people aren't criticizing him, that I almost feel like I have to criticize him even harsher now, just because no one else is. If that makes sense. Because he's sort of like, it's a preseason, he just joined, so on and so forth. But hey, that was horrible. And I don't think he had a great game. In all honesty, like he scored, and for that, that was a pretty good moment to score with your first touch, for a new club. But I am very intrigued to see how the game against Manchester City will go, because he'll be more integrated with the team, and I'd want to see how he performs there. But that's my thoughts on the Ligt. I don't know if anyone else has something to add or retract/subtract. No,
Yeah.
Nothing. Okay.
I you just showed it. What shall I do? What shall I say? It was bad. Like
Yeah.
you can't argue there. It was bad what he just did there. But I go with Daniel, man. This he still have like this. You say in German Welpenschutz, and he still has it for me. Like at least for this game. Let's see how he performs against City, because that will be like the more of the better. Juventus terrorism ball ruined him. Maybe.
That's true. That's true.
And maybe it. We don't know. Let's see.
But yeah,
Man.
it's a preseason
Imagine
game. I don't personally. I don't judge it that harshly or that critically. I just thought I need to point it out because, again, a lot of people ignore criticizing him because he's a new guy. So that's why. But it's not like that really matters in the grand scheme of things. If that happens, 2 months down the line, that's a different story. But right now, who cares, really? Now, with that said, it's time we talk about some of the other players that played yesterday. I want to start with, first half. Talk a little bit about the first half. Obviously, we started with a 4-2-2-2 that sometimes looked like a 4-4-2, honestly. But it was very narrow, with our fullbacks providing all the width and all our players further up front being very, very narrow, especially on the left side. On the right side, I felt like our wing backs, well, in this case our right back in Mazraoui was providing a lot of width, but I also feel like there was a little bit of issues here and there. Actually, 1 second. Chelsea, how are you doing? I do hope you're fantastic. But yeah, I do think that there was a very clear distinction between our left side and our right side of the pitch. But with that said, Chelsea, welcome. I hope you're fantastic. How are you doing?
Hello. I hope you guys can hear me. I'm doing fine. I'm a bit tired, to be honest. I think I caught 1 hour of sleep before the game. I only planned on watching the first half. I ended up watching the whole match because it was quite good, and had to go to work a few hours later. So yeah, but overall, I enjoyed the game, enjoyed the match, especially the first 20 minutes. As I've said in the comments, it was extremely dynamic, extremely fast. I was quite surprised of how good we were, considering that's literally our first game of this, not season, but preseason. And usually we're not really, like historically, in that phase of the preseason, we don't gel as well as we do. And especially considering we've got so many newcomers, such as De Ligt, Mane, especially Mane. I completely forgot that these were the first 45 minutes of Sadio Mane in a Bayern dress. I completely forgot that. It felt like he had been playing with us for at least half a year to a year. So I'm very content with the performance of him. De Ligt was, he had light and shadow all at once in the performance, right? He had some good scenes, some bad scenes. Mazraoui was the exact opposite. He had not much of anything, or nothing that I noted. and who has the Gravenberg. Obviously, I really liked the way he played. And yeah, what surprised me was not surprised me, but the thought that kept creeping into my head was in both halves we had numerous world-class players, and I think Niles said it earlier that especially in the first half, you take that squad or the lineup and add Coman, Müller, Kimmich, Musiala, all those players in, and then it kind of gets scary. And I'm seeing Lima is about to coming for Leipzig, so
Yep.
I'm going to be watching him. So yeah, that's my thoughts on the game.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, as I said, as we all said, those four, with the debut was very impressive, and obviously most impressive was the fact that we actually had like two good lineups for both halves, and that is with Goretzka not playing and Musiala also not playing. It tells you a lot about our squad, but then again, injuries are typically what brings us down. Our first 11 and so on and so forth is usually not an issue, but it tends to be injuries, as the previous season have always shown. Now, with that said, first half, let's talk a little bit about that as we were trying to. I think he was named earlier in the comment section. I think someone mentioned him, but I wanted to start with a player that a lot of us have written off, a lot of us have discarded, a lot of us have forgotten about. And when we did our, what players can do to improve, we completely forgot about him until the very, very end. And that is Sabitzer.
Yeah.
That is Sabitzer.
That was my comment, by the way.
It was, all right.
Yeah.
What's everyone's thoughts on Sabitzer then?
The thing is, in the previous times where I've been on this discussion, I've always said Sabitzer needs to be sold because I don't see not the value in him. I just thought he was too good to be on the bench, but he wasn't. He doesn't bring enough unique qualities to our team to start.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted him to be sold, but then I saw him yesterday, and I was like, "Nah, we can't lose him. I'd rather keep him and then not spend any other money on someone else." But the thing is, where does he fit in? Because he's not going to go into the starting lineup. What does he provide to our team? I want the fans with him, but if he keeps this form up, then we should definitely keep him.
What do you mean? Where does he play? Goretzka is like injured, right? And Gravenberg, I mean, he's very young. His performance could vary a lot, like between games and stuff. I think Sabitzer has a shot to use the Goretzka injury and become at least a starting player for like some games. Just my opinion.
Yeah,
I think if he plays like that, he could play alongside Kimmich, like no doubt.
Sure. But I meant the times when I said that I want him out was before the injury of Goretzka, which, by the way, Gravenberg also, I think I said that in the comments. I don't know why, but he gives off that vibe of like Tolisso, right? Like extremely talented, extremely like such a good player. But I just have the feeling like he's going to be injured a lot during his time at Bayern. So yeah, perhaps it is good to have Sabitzer because he's a solid player, and yeah, we're gonna have a lot of injuries, especially in the World Cup year, and the World Cup year. So I'd be in favor of keeping him now. Yeah, at least for this year.
Okay. One player that I think we need to mention before, I think we'll move on to the youngsters afterwards, all the youngsters that played yesterday. But one player that, I mean, he is very young, the player I'm about to mention, but one player that we need to definitely mention is Davis. Because that performance yesterday was mamma mia, to quote a wise Italian plumber. Mamma mia. Just absolutely spectacular. And there were questions because we have been linked to Sosa and Raum. There were questions, are we going to give Davis a challenge? I'll just say this right now. Whichever fullback you get, if you get a fullback, they're never going to see a single minute if Davis plays the way he does. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah. Nothing else to add. I mean, it was just me. Like when he came, like when the game started, it felt to me like there was something different about Davis. I can't pin it down. I don't know what it was. It was nothing negative or positive. It was just something different, maybe in
It's
his
it's the
style.
single life mentality.
That's true. That's true. And notice how after he broke up, no more heart problems. I'm just saying.
Yeah, that's just the way it is sometimes, isn't it? Now, here's actually, no, let's talk about the youngsters then. Let's talk about them. So we have Vidovic, Copaldo in the first half. Am I missing someone? I don't think I am. And Nianzou, I guess. And Nianzou. So let's talk about those three. Let's start with Nianzou, just because I'm deciding that. What was everyone's thoughts on? Well, actually, no, Nianzou and on defense. What's everyone's thoughts on Nianzou and our defense yesterday in the first half? How we performed in the first half. If no one wants to go first, I'll gladly go first. So my again, as I always say, I like Nianzou because I think he's got the highest potential out of all of our centre backs, and I think it was very clearly put on display yesterday. Defensively, he was very, very good, but then there was also a moment where his passing is just so incredibly direct. He almost got an assist, I believe, for Mane, where the pass was like intercepted in just about, but if it wasn't, he would have gotten an assist with his pass, from as a centre back all the way to Mane, and I think I just want to see him play more because I feel like our defense was really solid in the first half, and it really dropped off in the second half for various reasons. But just the way Nianzou played yesterday in the first half, I'm very excited. Just the way I think our defense actually was very solid. I know we when we talk about Mazraoui, we mainly talk about him offensively, and same with Davis. When we talk about fullbacks nowadays, you always think about offensively, not defensively. And I think that's just bad because Davis was good on both sides. Now, of course, with Davis, you can attribute a lot of that to his speed. But the way I'm personally looking at it, I'm like, okay, yeah, sure. Yeah, he's more of a winger that tracks back, you could say. But I think that's unfair to look at. And with Mazraoui, while I didn't think he added that much offensively, I still think defensively he was quite good. Not amazing or anything, but just good. And with Meccano, with a block as well, with a crucial block as well. I think overall, our defense as a whole was very, very good. And obviously with Mazraoui, Meccano, Davis, and Nianzou being at the heart of that. But what's everyone else's thoughts on it? Anyone? Anyone?
I'm trying to formulate my words before I say something.
I think it's not that serious, in all honesty.
This is in regards to the Mazraoui Upamecano thing, right?
Just in general, our defense yesterday.
Yeah, I think.
And our youngsters.
Out of all the defenders, I think Nianzou impressed me the most. To be honest, I think I like the way he commands the pitch. You can kind of just feel even though he's young, you can just kind of feel his presence on the pitch now, which I think is a big difference compared to last season, where he looked very not shaky, but maybe lack of confidence, maybe more shy. Now I think he's trying to he's growing into it a bit more. I think he did pretty well with Upamecano. Mazraoui didn't fuck up. I don't remember him fucking up defending wise. He had a shit cross once. I think overall it was from the defenders, it's an average performance. I think we do concede too many shots this game, but it's a preseason game, so I'm not gonna worry about it too much. I think when all the players gel together a bit more, because this is the first time a lot of them have played together. So I think a better test for this defense will be the Man City game, where we see Haaland running at these players, Kevin De Bruyne running at these players, and Foden running at these players. I think that game I'll judge the defense more. For this one, I just think it's test the waters, see what gels, what doesn't work on the chemistry.
Okay.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can.
Okay. I was about to say something about Nianzou. Are you still talking about him?
Yeah, go for it.
Nah,
We're always talking about Nianzou. Never forget that.
there's this one point I always like in my Nianzou voice because you already said it, but it is the passing. I think his passing is like might be the best like defensive central back when it comes to passing we have, and it's always like what I like about him is like he plays these risky passes, right? Like sometimes and most of the time they are successful. Like and you have some you need some skill to do that. I think he has a lot of potential. I also thought he was quite good, like defensively, but as Daniel said, I think we need to wait for like a serious opponent for that. But at least I think he showed that he has like a lot of potential, and Nagelsmann must consider him to be a successful, like let's say, someone who could easily play like in the Bundesliga in a Bundesliga game because he's a real option, and I like that. I like that. I think loaning him out would be the wrong move, to be honest.
Okay. Tausif, what are your thoughts on our defense in the first half yesterday, and more specifically, our youngster in the case of Nianzou?
I mean, the first half was quite solid. We didn't concede, but we did have a few instances where where it showed that it still isn't the most solid defense out there in Europe right now. I think it was once after a set piece where they all just kind of stood around and they got a shot. I think that was the one where Upamecano like kind of blocked it in the last ditch attempt. Nianzou, I liked the way he played because he seemed very up to speed. But the thing is, it's DC United and it's a preseason game, so I don't want to read too much into it. But I think I've said it on Twitter multiple times. I would like to see, rather than going for Lima and spending 30 million now, I just trust Nianzou to fill in both centre back and defensive midfield. So yeah, I also don't want him to be loaned out. But if we do bring in Lima, obviously we have to loan him out because he's at a point in his career where he needs to play more often. So that he can become this Ballon d'Or candidate that you deem him to be, Prince.
All right. Okay. Yeah. A lot of good comments, a lot of good comments on our defense. Yeah, I very much agree with all of that. One thing I will say is that last season he was our best player in preseason too, and then he got 0 game time in the actual season. So
I remember, yeah.
I'm not holding my breath here, honestly, unfortunately. But yeah, first half, our midfield, we're just going to kind of speed through a little bit because I know a lot of people want to watch the women's game that starts in about 20 minutes. So we'll speed up through it a little bit. What's everyone's thoughts on our midfield yesterday in the first half? So more specifically, our youngsters in both Vidovic and Copaldo, who played in the first half of the game yesterday.
Vidovic, for a player who's out of position, playing in more of like a pivot role, I thought he did pretty good.
Yep.
It wasn't anything spectacular, but it was solid. I think I'd want to see more from him in a higher position on the field, but I thought he did good in his role. With Capoto, he did good to win the penalty. He had a few instances where I think his decision making can improve a bit, but he's very young, and I don't want to judge these players too harsh. But overall, I think both of them did pretty solid. Sabitzer midfield had a very good game, but we'll see what happens to him. Yeah, I thought the pressing from the midfield was good too. I think they all work together pretty well, especially considering there's like two youngsters out on there.
Okay, yep.
I fully agree. Capaldo also won the penalty, if I remember correctly.
Yep.
Yeah. I think Vidovic is a special player. I honestly think that, but I'm not sure whether him staying is the right call. I think he could be good enough for like a solid mid-table Bundesliga team, if I'm being honest, but I don't know whether that's the right step. I always think it's hard to judge like whether to loan out or not regarding the young players, because we see sometimes they don't even get game time at their like new club, which is like the worst case, right? So I don't know what I think Nagelsmann has a plan. At least I hope so, because I think he also agrees that Vidovic is like a really like solid, good player. Could easily reach Bayern level. Like I do think that.
Okay, Tausif, what's your thoughts on both Capaldo and Vidovic in the first half?
To be honest, subconsciously, I never like pay attention to the youngsters because subconsciously I know they're never going to have a shot at the first team anyways. So it's just I filter them out. I mean, they probably did well, I guess. So the others will probably have more to say on that, and you obviously as well than I do. But I didn't see anything that like negatively, too negatively. So to me, it's whatever. So you just go ahead and then tell me all about it.
Okay, well, personally, my view on both of them is actually quite very simple. Capaldo, he won the penalty, so for that, it was a dive, granted, but he won the penalty, so I don't really care too much. That's very good. Obviously, Capaldo is someone that has like very good decision making, but yesterday it's very telling, I think. Unfortunately for him, honestly, but it's very telling how good our left side was, because that just means that our right side was not as good. And it wasn't necessarily because they were bad, they just weren't as good as our left side, where like all of our play went through our left side. So it's just unfortunate for Capaldo that like people are going to compare the right side with the left side, and clearly the left side, it was the more dominant one. But so I think he had like an okay game. I didn't think he had a great game. I just thought he had an okay game. Vidovic, I was really impressed because he played in a position that is unfamiliar to him. He's typically like the person that like very similar to, I want to say, Gnabry, not in terms of like style, but more so in terms of directness. So like someone that gets the ball and like his first thought is, I want to go forward, I want to attack, I want to get the ball as close to the opponent's goal as quickly as possible. And because he was playing so much further and so much deeper than typically, I do think we hindered that a lot. But at the end of the day, I think he still had an overall very solid game, and I think two big winners in terms of the young guys yesterday were Gravenberg and him and Vidovic. So that's in terms of the first half. Now, of course, there were a lot of substitutions that were made in the second half. I mean, we already talked about Gravenberg, so let's talk a little bit about Vanna, who a lot of people obviously have very high expectations of. What was everyone's thoughts on Vanna's play yesterday?
Honestly, I didn't pay that much attention to the second half because I think I was like almost asleep. But nevertheless, I think, I don't know. I think, where did Vanna exactly play though? Like, what was his position compared to the position? Who played it in the first half, and where did he play?
Well, in the first half, we played a 4-2-2-2 or 4-4-2, depending on how you look at it.
Yeah.
Whereas in the second half, we definitely played a 4-2-3-1 with Zirkzee up top. And I'm gonna have to like go back and like see what who actually played in the second half, because I kind of forgot, if I'm being completely honest.
There was Muller, Gravenberg, Kimmich, the left was.
Yeah, centre back pairing was Stanisic was on the left side, I think.
Yeah.
Stanisic was on the left, Pabert on the right, Lucas Hernandez, and then the Ligt until the Ligt got injured, quote unquote, but tired, I guess. And then Coleman was on the left.
I think Vanna was on the right.
Yeah, has to be them.
Yeah.
So right wing. But yeah. Honestly, I'm gonna say it. I barely noticed Vanna. Like he was pretty invisible yesterday. And it's the very same issue that you had with like the first half, where in the first half, like all of our play went through our left. I felt the same way about the second half. It was like a lot left and a lot central. It went through a lot, through the left with Coman. And then centrally through Müller and Gravenberg, who I thought Müller and Gravenberg combined very well. What I was a little bit disappointed with was actually Kimmich, because typically, he sprays the ball quite well, both left and right, and I felt like he didn't do that so much yesterday, which is why our play mainly came from our centre backs, really just like passing the ball, to our wingers, and it mainly was passing the ball to Coman. I feel like,
yeah. I think a lot of it, too much of the play came through Coman. I think I don't want to say I was disappointed with Vanner because he's super young.
Yep.
But a lot of stuff just wasn't coming off for him. Like a lot of the dribbles we saw when he was playing against Wolfsburg, I think he was going through a lot of those players with ease. It just wasn't coming off today. I don't know what it is, but it's still preseason, so I'm not going to be harsh. It was a bit disappointing considering the hype around him, but hopefully it's just like a one-off game. Kimmich was a bit disappointing too because like it looked like Gravenberch was the one who's been playing at midfield for Bayern for the past since 2015, and Kimmich was the new signing. So especially since Kimmich kind of came off a disappointing season, in my opinion, he really needs to step up, especially considering he's like the new big leader in the team now that Lewandowski's gone. So I think out of the second half, I think the players who disappointed the most were Kimmich for sure, and then I don't want to say Banner, but like he has to kind of be in there.
Yeah, I can't disagree with that in the slightest. I don't know if anyone here has a different view on that, in terms of like the players that disappointed you the most in the second half. One player that impressed.
What about Stanisic?
Stanisic was okay. Like he wasn't great, but like he was okay. Like basically, the way I always view Stanisic really is just like you know what you're gonna get from him, and you're not gonna get more, and you're really not gonna get less, but you know what you're gonna get from him, and that's consistent 7 out of 10 is the way I view it. But up front we had Zirkzee. Thoughts on him? Just I'm gonna remove myself for now and just let people speak.
Nice tapping goal.
Yeah, it was a nice tap. My issue with Zirkzee is that like he's a good player, but his movement kind of reminds me of Ozil, where it's very lax, and that kind of annoys me. Even though he's not this like flexible striker, I think he's good to have in the squad just because we don't have a big, strong 9 to bring on. But he's so young that like I feel bad if we just like sit him on the bench for game after game after game. He's a good player, but I just don't see him coming through at Bayern.
I mean, yeah, we can say tap and go, but to be honest, it was also very good positioning by Zirkzee, because I was kind of paying attention to him, and he was always positioned very well. I think at least. So that's obviously like what we say called in Germany, like Stürmer instinct, right? Literally striker's instinct. So that was very good, and so I agree with Daniel that we do need, because I think Nagelsmann is going to prefer the false 9 with either Gnabry, Mane, or both. But it always is nice to have at least 1 or 2 like proper number 9s. We have Choupo-Moting, who I haven't seen. Was he even in the squad?
No.
So. No.
Very telling that Zirkzee played, but not Choupo-Moting.
Yeah, that's weird. So, but at least we'll have 2 number 9s, and but if a very, very good offer comes in for him, I wouldn't be I wouldn't say no to a transfer away from Bayern.
Well, as the resident Zirkzee number 1 fan in the world, I just want to say I was right, everyone else was wrong, and that's all I needed to say. Thank you. With that said, in addition though, another player, one player that I do want to mention for the second half that we haven't really talked about, and I kind of just skipped over, and he's not a young player, that's why we haven't really talked about him. He's one of the more established players, but that is Thomas Müller. It was very telling that in the second half, while our team for the most part was significantly worse, the player that I thought really stood out above everyone else was Thomas Müller.
Yeah,
Mhm.
100%.
Yeah.
And I think it gives a few headaches to Nagelsmann because if you looked at how he played yesterday, you would say, well, first half, absolutely, it's a stronger lineup with a few exceptions. Kimmich probably, not probably, but Kimmich, and you can definitely say Müller. Müller needs to be in there because
He would play the top halder position, right?
he could, yeah.
I think that's the position he is also played at. Because one thing I noticed when Muller was playing is he played a lot of on the right side. Or was it left side? I think it was the
Central.
right side.
No, it's more so central, but he did as he usually does, drift wide as well.
Yeah. I think this is I think he's like good enough to play this position as well. So I'm looking forward to it. But as you said, like Müller, man, always delivers. Like he has
I'm
to play,
also
as you said.
yeah. I mean, I said it in the group chat yesterday. Like if you even in 2022 are of the opinion that Thomas Müller does not belong in the starting lineup, you have smoked some weird stuff. Like honestly, but what I'm also interested to see, we saw Kimmich and Müller yesterday in a 4-2-3-1. But I'm very interested in seeing what it will look like in a 4-2-2-2 because Sabitzer yesterday, when we were in position, he dropped very very deep and like sprayed out the passes from. Don't want to say in between the centre backs, but like slightly like further up the pitch than the centre backs. And that might be a role for Kimmich next season, where he's a bit more like he plays from a deeper role, as opposed to like really in the middle. So and obviously Thomas Müller, he's like a ghost. He's everywhere at the same time. And in this 4-2-2-2, I think he can be devastating, but I'm not too sure yet because I have no experience whatsoever with the 4-2-2.
Kind of a breaking news. Mane will not return to the US after the Africa Player of the Year selection.
Yeah, I've just saw that as well.
Makes
By
sense.
Torben Hoffman.
Yeah.
Okay, so then to wrap up yesterday's game, because as I said, I think a lot of people want to watch the women's.
Yeah, it's about to start. Yeah.
Yeah. What do you want to see in the next friendly against Manchester City? What are your expectations? What are your hopes to see in the next one?
I just want a clean sheet, and then
That's
I
what
want to
happened.
see. What I want to see is Muller play with Gnabry and Mane, because Mane and Gnabry are already so flexible and have good chemistry that those two by themselves are a headache for a defender. And if you add Muller to that, the movement of those three is crazy for any defender to mark, to match, to keep up with. So I want to see those three in a game together.
But you won't, as Mane won't return. So the next friendly, probably
Oh,
see
yeah,
a different lineup.
But yeah, that's true because you guys are. Yeah, I mean, just keep the clean sheet and win. That's all I care about at this point.
Yeah, honestly, I was just about to say, I hope both teams take it serious and then just play it out like a real game. And then I want to see like how good are we. I know you cannot like rate these friendlies as high, but if like Man City comes in with their best lineup, including Haaland, and we go in with a good lineup, I want to see how good we like matched, because I honestly think for me Man City is like the top of the top, at least like the best team when it comes to the squad, and I want to see how good we like go up against them, especially now with these like the new style of football we play without Lewandowski. Let's see how we do against top teams.
Okay. Yeah, I very much I share the sentiment. I want to see Mane, Gnabry, Müller, and Kimmich and Gravenberg.
And Sané.
No, actually, no. I just and that's not a shade to Sané, but I want to see because I do think Gravenberg has a very good shot at starting the season. So I kind of want to see a possible lineup start for that we could have at the start of the season. Whereas with Sané, I kind of want him to not be eased in because he's not a young player, obviously, but I kind of want him not to be played too much so that we actually do see that strength more. So I don't want to see him with like a weaker squad against Manchester City, because obviously he played with the better team in the first half in this game, and I want to see him play with like the weaker team so that he has to stand out more, if that makes sense. Overall, though, if you had to rate the game, and that's my final question, if you had to rate the game, first half and the second half, what would you rate it out of 10? I know it's a preseason friendly, but
yeah. With the context of a preseason friendly, I'm gonna give the first half an 7 point. No, I'll give the first half an 8, and then the second half 7.
I go with 9 and 6, or 9 and 6, something like that, because I was really intrigued by the first half, and especially about like the first 20 minutes. I thought we were playing like, I don't know, prime football, but then reality took back. But it's still a good game, a good first half. So I still give it a 9. Second half, I wasn't that impressed with many of the players, like Gravenberg, Muller being like the exceptions. But the other ones, I don't know. Let's see. As I said, 9 and 6, I would say. What about you, Quinn?
I would give it an 8 and a 4. I'd give it an 8 for the first half because I liked the pressing. I liked the energy that we had, at least at the beginning of the game. And then that just dropped off completely after like 25 minutes. So that's why I give it an 8, just because like half of it we were really, really good, like much better than I ever expected. But then like the other half, I thought, the other half of the first half, rather, I thought that like we were what I expected. So for the first half, I'd give it an 8. And then second half, I give a 4. I just thought we were very poor.
We were actually.
So yeah, that's our discussion on the DC United versus versus FC Bayern, the 2-6 victory. And of course, we didn't talk about the games. There's a lot more that we could realistically talk about, but the women's Euros is on. Germany women's versus Austria women's. So I'm about to dip, and I want to watch that. So I thank you very much for everyone that joined us today in the chat and everyone that's watching this later on. I just want to say, be sure to, of course, give the video a thumbs up. It helps the algorithm, even though I don't really care, in all honesty. But hey, I do have to mention it because otherwise, if you don't mention it, you don't get it. So there you go. There's my mention. With that said, we'll see you all next time. Until then, peace out from me.
Me as well.
And Magnus.
Peace out, guys.
And peace out. Have a nice day, everyone. Bye.
Nice day.